Yeah, and so now you can see
Peace, love, and Reiki. We're live, and this is Global Reiki Webinars. Welcome. We just opened up. We've got Ursula from Switzerland. Hello, Ursula. Hello, Todd in Mercer Island, Washington. Carol in Canada. Daniel in the USA. Scott in Australia. Buenos noches. Adriana in Argentina. And these are moving really quickly. Please type into the chat. Let me know that you can hear my voice as well as you're coming in and saying hello and where you're from. I'm Rachel Goldberg, and I'm going to be your host and moderating tonight. This is Global Reiki Webinars, typically with myself and Usui Shiki-ryoho Grandmaster Phyllis Furumoto, who you see beside me on your screen. And tonight we also have another guest, Yakuten-san, a Japanese Reiki master, and he will introduce himself in just a moment. Phyllis and Yakuten will be speaking with us tonight about the essential nature of Reiki energy, and then we will be answering questions that came in advance from you, the Global Reiki community. And there were so many questions that came in today, and a lot of early registration, which is really exciting. Hey, Eduardo in Brazil, Tanya in Ukraine. So good to see all of you, and I'm glad that this is a time that works for so many of you in Australia. It's often when Phyllis and I are both in the States that we don't overlap our times as well for you guys. So glad that you're here. And these events happen every 4 to 6 weeks, where Phyllis and I produce just free public broadcasts for the Global Reiki community, where Phyllis is able to share herself and her wisdom and teachings that she has accumulated and that have come through her in her many years of teaching Reiki practitioners all over the world. And if you would like to support the Global Reiki Webinar Project by sending a monetary donation, I'll be putting up a link on the screen. You'll see it at the bottom of your chat in a few moments. And you can, if you click that button, it'll open a page outside of here. So I recommend just clicking it, and you can stay present with the program. And if you'd like to send a monetary gift, we very much appreciate it. It helps us continue to do this and receive the love and support and the energy in that way, and we always appreciate it very much. If you are watching the replay on YouTube, the link to the donation page and our PayPal account is below in the description of this video. And or you could just log into PayPal and send a donation to reikiwebinars@gmail.com. The last piece of business that I would like to share with you is to make sure you know that we have a ongoing discussion page in Facebook. It's a group called Global Reiki Webinars. And if you'd like to be part of that community and post your questions after the webinars, see updates whenever we have new webinars, I always post the registration there first, so you can make sure that you have all that information and can network and engage with all of these people who you're seeing in your chat on that page. And without further ado, I'm going to expand the screen of Phyllis and Yakuten, and Phyllis will begin by leading us in Reiki. And Phyllis, I muted you earlier, and I cannot unmute you now.
Okay. Well, I'm so happy to be here. I had this idea when Rachel and I were doing our schedule months ago, that I would be in Japan now, and that perhaps my new friend, Yakuten, would be willing to be on the show with me. And he said yes. Aren't we all lucky? And so I'm really, really excited. Yay. I'm excited because when we have gotten together and had our talks about Reiki, about different happenings in the Reiki community and so on, I always learn something new from him. Not that it's information, but it's a different way of looking at things. Because you know, even though I'm Japanese, I wasn't raised in Japan. I don't speak the language, and there is a huge difference of being familiar with Japanese food and being familiar with the culture, and the wonderful difference of perspective. And I hope that we will be able all to partake of that today by his sharing, and for both of us, or all three of us sometimes, to share in the response to the questions. Because, you know, in our global Reiki webinar philosophy, we really want to encompass and include all the different possibilities of opinion and perception of what we are doing in our Reiki practice and what our Reiki practice is bringing us individually and as a community. And of course, what the influence is in the world. So first of all, let's start as usual by doing a few minutes of self-treatment. So I invite you all to join me and Rachel and Yakuten in putting our hands on each other and going into our Reiki space. So you can put your hands on your body wherever you'd like. And if this is not a part of your practice, then just to be with us with closed eyes in a way that works for you. I like taking this time with my eyes closed to see a favorite space of mine, a mountain meadow, where there's just sky, wildflowers, and I can embrace the world from this place, have contact with each of you. Thank you. Thank you. Great. Ah, that was delicious. Wonderful. So, as usual, I usually talk a little bit now and set a background for the answers or where I come from in my response to the questions that have been asked. So I've asked Yakuten to speak about the word Reiki in Japanese, and also about the actual kanji itself, because as you know, kanji comes from the Chinese pictographs that they used for language. And so the kanji are not just a bunch of lines. They are actually a picture which communicates something. And also just how Reiki, the word Reiki, is used in the Japanese language. And this I found out in a discussion only a few days ago. So I'm really excited to hear it again. So it kind of seeps into my mind because it's a different idea than I had before. So please, Yakuten, if you could help us with this, that would be great.
Thank you very much, Chris-san. It is my great pleasure and honor to be with you here today. And thank you very much for having me. My name is Hyakuten Inamoto, a native of Kyoto, the ancient capital city of Japan. Now I'm supposed to talk about Reiki, huh?
Reiki,
okay, it's a big topic.
It is a big topic.
Yeah, so difficult to, in a way, explain, what it is. But my interpretation of Reiki, Rachel, could you show the kanji? This one?
Yeah, here we go.
Okay, see, my interpretation, Reiki is short for 10-day Chiki. 10-day Chiki. As you see, we have a Rei, and Ki here.
Yes.
Yes.
The familiar kanji.
Yes, very familiar, but not familiar. The first one, 10, and, Chi, not familiar. Can we see the other one?
The next one?
Next one, please. Okay, very good. So, familiar, Reiki, and to me, kanji Rei means the energy. Also, Ki, as everybody know, also the energy. So different kanji, but the same energy. I mean the meaning, the energy. Okay, yeah. But the source is different. Kanji Rei, energy, come from 10 means the heaven.
Right.
Yeah. Then kanji Ki, energy, come from Chi means the earth. So the energy of Reiki, come from the heavens and the earth. Okay. Yeah. So, in a way, simply put, Reiki is the energy of the universe. In the olden day, people, when they look at the heaven, the earth, it's already the universe. Huh? Yeah. In a modern sense, it's the universe. So my interpretation is Reiki is the energy of the universe. In other words, the energy of the heaven and the earth. Then, of course, Reiki is just one of the common nouns. Yeah, like a flower. The tea. Pen. Water. Not kind of a special word. So even non-Reiki people in Japan, if they stay in a deep forest, then they feel something, kind of a mysterious, ethereal, atmosphere or the air.
Right.
Then they choose the word. Oh, I feel Reiki. Yeah. So Reiki is one of the common nouns. Yeah. And it's been there, from many, years. I mean, even from Usui Sensei, yeah. So, yeah. So again, Reiki, simply put, it's the energy of the universe which sustains all life. Not only human, animal, plant, everything, all living things.
All living things.
Usually we are not aware of this, the energy of the universe, which is Reiki. And I think in different culture and different country, they have their own name.
Right.
Or, Reiki, In Japan, we use the word Reiki, but in a different country, they use a different word for this. Like prana or, mana in Hawaii, something like that.
Yeah.
Or pneuma in ancient Greece, European country, but different name, but the same thing. That's my understanding. Yeah. In Japan, we just say, we call it Reiki. Yes.
Reiki.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Good. Thanks, Rachel, for the. Yeah. Great.
You.
Well, when I was asked to explain Reiki as the kanji, I always thought that it was Rei, the energy of the universe, and Ki was more my personal.
Okay.
My personal.
Yeah.
Because when they call, when they, like when you're in martial arts, they use the word Ki.
Yeah.
Often.
Yes.
But I get the heaven and earth. I think that's much. Yeah.
So that same energy. Sense. Different kanji means different source. Yeah.
Right. Right.
So the heaven, in between the heaven, the earth, we are here. Okay?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So sometimes we forget about the energy of the earth. When we think of the universe, the universe over there,
Right.
Forgetting about the earth or ground, Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think if we know this way, the Reiki is the energy from the heaven and also the earth.
Yeah. And the other thing that was different for me was knowing that Reiki was just not just, but Reiki was a common word in Japanese.
Yes.
I always thought that Mikao Usui coined this word and actually selected the kanji because of the energy or the meaning of each of the kanji. So it's interesting to know that that word already existed.
Speaking of Usui Sensei, he didn't explain what's Reiki or, but only one word he said, his interpretation of Reiki is, Chukan no Rei no means a mysterious power in the universe. That's his interpretation of Reiki.
Power.
Yeah.
Great.
The mysterious power in the universe. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And I understand that if people knew about Reiki before Mikao Usui brought this to us, if we can say it in such a way, that there were also people who were already energy healers.
Yes, of course.
Who used the energy Reiki as a healing.
Even the name,
Yeah. Even the name.
Yeah. And before Usui Sensei, several, people, they were called Reijutsuka, Reijutsu is, literally it means Rei as in Reiki, Yeah. Jutsu is a martial art, like art, the art of mental healing. Yeah, Reijutsuka. And of course, Usui Sensei was just one of them. Yeah. And some of them named their system, Reiki Ryoho. Yeah. Reiki Ryoho means healing art or therapy. Yeah. That's why Usui Sensei put his family name before Reiki Ryoho. That's why, his system is called Usui Reiki Ryoho. Yeah. To, how we say,
differentiate.
Yes, differentiate, on the other Reiki Ryoho.
But the difference of Mikao Usui, as was noted by with Hawaii Takata as well, was that he was able to somehow pass on this gift of healing. Yes. Is that unusual with all these other healers?
In a way, very unusual. Like the other founder of the system, except Usui Sensei, they couldn't survive.
Right.
Yeah.
The system itself.
The system. When the founder died, the system died with him or her, the founder.
Yeah.
Only Usui Rekireho could survive.
Yeah.
Still, all over the world.
Yeah.
Because of the, in Japan it's called Reiju, initiation. Without initiation, it's energy,
Right.
So how can we pass the energy, we cannot see onto other person, if like this, okay, here you are. I can give it to anybody. So
right.
easy. But the energy,
Yeah.
We can feel it, but we cannot see it.
Right.
So I think Usui Sensei had, in a way, difficult time. How can I pass the energy on to the other person? Then, in a way, he created, the formality, which is called Reiju, initiation ritual, so that he could pass the energy on. Yeah.
Right.
Then, how did he find out, Reiju, or, the initiation ritual? My personal kind of speculation.
Yes, please.
We have a religion, world religion, like Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism. To me, so-called religion is more like an energy. We don't see it. We have a Buddhist temple, Christian churches, they are the building.
Yeah.
We can see, but churches are not Christianity. Buddhist temple are not Buddhism.
Right.
To me, it's more like a, energy. But look, generation after generation, we still have a religion, Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, because each religion have their own initiation ritual. Yeah, they have. Because of that, we still have.
Well,
that's my
really
personal, speculation. Maybe Usui Sensei, found this, Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The same thing, but they have initiation, that's why, they are here, still here.
Right. Interesting
so
thought.
Reiju or initiation is very, very important.
Important.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Rachel, I'm just wondering if you have any comments or questions for
I tried to unmute myself and accidentally muted you. My thoughts, because I'm echoing on yours, so I'll mute you again. My thoughts while looking at the kanji and hearing the connection of the heavens and the earth is that was the way that I intuitively understand what Reiki energy is I think about it as the universal life force energy. So the energy that comes from the ethers. If I live in a culture where the dominant belief system is science, and in science, we can understand that a tree brings in light energy through the leaves, through the branches, through the trunk, through the roots, and into the earth. And we also bring in light energy through our consciousness and through all of the aspects of our being through our root, including our hands. And the way I understand it is all around the planet, all life as Yucatan said, the humans, the animals, the plants are bringing in this universal life force energy into the earth, and then it meets in the center and then radiates back out. We experience that life force energy through breath and through what we eat and the way that we engage with the other life force matter that is. But what's different, I think, and maybe not different, is I understand it as like, so there's the Reiki energy that comes through, known as Yucatan said by many other names, and then from the core of the earth comes back up. And the other names that I associate with that point of the flow, that upward, coming up through the root, fueling life into the consciousness and then back out into the ethers as we create with our essence and our being, is like what people call Kundalini, or in Jewish mysticism, Shekhinah, the divine feminine life force energy coming from the earth. But that it's really like an infinity, and that this intersection is life. Life is the intersection point of infinity. And my conceptualization and my sensational experience of Reiki energy is that it's that infinite, the infinite at a certain point in its cycle, that as it's coming from the ethers for us to experience. And I don't know, I'm curious, Yucatan, if that is in line or with what you were explaining and what you understand, or if it is different. And you are muted.
Would you repeat your question again? Summarize the question.
So the question is, I think I heard you saying that Reiki energy is all energy of heavens and earth. And the way that I have up until now understood and experienced Reiki energy is that it's a downward flowing energy. It's the energy from the heavens, from the ethers as it comes through, and that it's a distinct point of the energetic cycle, the infinite cycle, the Reiki, because it's experienced differently when it's coming up from the earth.
So my understanding is more like, from the earth, from the heaven, from the heaven, from the earth, like you mentioned, like in cycle, yeah. Okay. We say, ray from the heaven, ki from the earth, but it's actually one thing, yeah. Oneness, yeah. One beautifully blended energy, which is Reiki, and also the Reiki to me, it's the source of all energy. We have a different energy, but to me, Reiki is a kind of an energy source. Yeah,
right.
The very base of all kind of energy.
Cool.
Thanks, Rachel. That was really interesting.
Yeah,
I never had thought of it before.
And good interpretation.
Yeah.
Reiki. Yeah. Thank you.
So what I'd like to do now is just to share with you a writing, and maybe some of you have already read this somewhere, but it's a description of Reiki energy from Hawayo Takata. And she wrote it down in one of her notes, and it's dated 1937. So this was when she was still a student, a beginning student of Reiki, from her master, Chijiro Hayashi. In my attempt to write an essay as the art of healing, I have limited words. I will try to be practical rather than technical, because what I am about to define is not associated with any material being, which is visible, nor has a shape, nor a mass. I believe there exists one supreme being, the absolute infinity, a dynamic force that governs the world and the universe. It is an unseen spiritual power that vibrates, and all other powers fade into insignificance beside it. So, therefore, it is absolute. This power is unfathomable, impermeable, and being a universal life force, incomprehensible to man. Yet every single living being is receiving its blessing daily, awake or asleep. I read this when I was very new to the Reiki practice, and I couldn't really relate to this description because I still had in my own mind, being grown up as a Christian person, the entity of God, and which was an old man sitting on a cloud in the sky. And so I thought I understood God, and I thought I understood everything that was in the universe. Then I began actually to practice Reiki on a conscious level. I was initiated, as you know, when I was a little girl, but I didn't know what I was doing. So when I was 30, I started to practice and to have all these experiences. And in part of those experiences, I had a chance to participate in a Japanese martial art called Aikido. And in this training, the master of Aikido talks about the relative universe and the absolute universe. And the understanding that the relative is our daily life. It's everything is relationship. And everything is compared to one another, you know, good, bad, right, wrong, small, big, so on. And then there's the absolute, which is just so. So what I realized for myself in about 10 years was that my path seemed to be going from the relative universe of my daily life to the absolute, which is where Reiki took me many times. When I was doing treatment, when I was teaching a class, when I was initiating, I had this feeling of being one with this void, but not void as in emptiness, but void in not having any words to describe it. And I feel that when one of the things that happens to me when I'm here in Japan is that I feel a common understanding among the people here of my own experience of what I would call the absolute, because they recognize as a matter of in their culture, and it's my culture too, genetically, that this divine energy, this absolute is a living, moving energy, and it can be, what could I say, seen very clearly in nature, for instance. So a certain rock or a waterfall or a tree that has this energy emitting from it so clearly that it becomes a part of the sacred, is so, just touches me so much. And I feel that in a way our idea of having Reiki practice is that we understand that we are also divine and that we can be a sacred being like this tree or this rock or waterfall, so, or the ocean. So this is where I feel the energy, the essential nature of Reiki is about pulling us and giving us a way to realize our ultimate potential. So,
yes, yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do agree. Very good.
Yeah. So thank you. And I'm really happy to have such a basic understanding of the word Reiki now, and wanting to be able to now take our understanding and apply it to questions that are very practical, some of them, and others of them good questions that will lead to other understandings. So, Rachel, would you like, shall we start our questions from the participants?
Yes.
Or unless you have something else to add.
I don't at this point. So for those of you who submitted questions, there were very, very many, and we're going to get to as many as possible. The first one came from Judith, and Judith wrote, I consider Reiki energy to be divine energy, or another way of saying this might be the energy of creation, and therefore identical to the energy throughout creation. Do you perceive Reiki energy in this way also, or do you perceive it differently from what I have suggested? Thank you. And thank you, Judith.
Would you like to speak first?
Well, maybe lady first.
Oh.
Well, okay. To me, yes, Reiki energy. I mean, Reiki Ryoho. Ryoho means a healing art. Huh? So to me, Reiki Ryoho is the art of, Reiki healing. But again, my interpretation is, it's the divine art of healing. That's my interpretation of Reiki Ryoho, means a Reiki healing art. Okay, so it's divine energy. So I call it the divine art of healing. That's my understanding of hands-on healing.
Right. Great. Thank you. Judith, I'm going to answer this from the point of what I would, of my grandmother and my masters trying to define the energy of Reiki, which is that it's unfathomable and it's incomprehensible actually to us as human beings, because our tendency as human beings is to make things small enough so that we can understand it. Because somehow as human beings, we have this idea that if we can understand it, then it becomes a part of us. The interesting thing for me is that it goes the other way as well. That the universe, this incomprehensible energy of Reiki, calls us to become more of ourselves and to become so much more that we don't understand it, but we still are able to be it. And, it's kind of like always needing to understand something before we will do it or before we will surrender to it. But the energy of Reiki for me is about leading us past that place. So, from a Christian point of view, I see that God, or this God power, is talking, the ultimate expression of this, we think, is the creation of the universe. However, in my Reiki practice, what I've been realizing is that the creation of the universe is sort of a Reiki phenomena, you put your hands on, and sometimes there's heat, sometimes there's tingling, sometimes there's other sensations. And Hawayo Takata used to say, "Oh, this is just Reiki saying, I'm here." So I believe that this creation of the universe is this energy saying, I am here. But that creation, the energy of creation, actually comes from Reiki, which, if we had to put a word to it, would actually be potential. Like I was always saying to people that the energy of Reiki for me is demonstrated in Michelangelo's painting on the Sistine Chapel, where God and man are reaching out to each other, and their fingers don't touch. They only are, they only come very close. So Reiki is not God or man. Reiki is the space between the fingers. Potential. So I would say yes to part of your question, and taking it a little further than the energy of creation. Thanks, Judith, for your question. Anything else? No?
And I just noticed how the sentiment in her question was so similar to the one that I asked right before we began with the questions.
Interesting. Great.
So the question from Joni is our next. And Joni wrote, can the contemplative usage of waka or tanka generate greater amounts of Reiki energy? Thank you.
So I'm leaving this to you because I don't know what waka is.
Okay, thank you very much. It is, it's a very, in a way, difficult, answer. Waka, as you may know, it's a traditional Japanese poem, short one. Like haiku, haiku is now all over the world, waka is, again, a little bit longer than haiku, but it's very traditional poem. And the Emperor Meiji composed about 100,000 poems, waka. Wow. But when the emperor composed waka, it's not waka anymore, different name, gyosei. Waka is called gyosei, only by emperor. Different name. And Usui Sensei chose 125 gyosei, which means, traditional Japanese poem.
Written by the emperor.
Yes, by the Emperor Meiji. Because Usui Sensei believed, Emperor Meiji was a very spiritual person, and, his poem, gyosei, very spiritual. So by chanting, the emperor's gyosei or waka, is a spiritual practice. So to raise our energy level, of course, number one, any spiritual practices. Okay, so there are many spiritual practices, and I think chanting waka, or Gyosei is one of the spiritual practice. In that sense, yes, waka can, raise our energy level because, because it's a, spiritual practice.
So is that understood to be a part of Reiki spiritual practice?
Not only among Usui Reiki Gakai member. Yeah, because the beginning of every meeting they chant Gyosei Waka.
I see.
To purify themselves.
Right.
So I think it's a practice of chanting or the as she say contemplative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
It's I think to me it's part of a spiritual practice, and so it's it's very possible.
Right. So, for instance, some people before they practice Reiki, they do meditation. Another kind of meditation. That's also the same thing to raise your spiritual energy.
Yes. So, like I said, any spiritual practice very much needed.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Thanks, Rachel. I think and thanks, Joni. I learned a lot.
The next question came from Srivastav, and Srivastav wrote, from a dualistic perspective, what makes more sense? Reiki flows into us from outside the physical body, or Reiki gets generated from space inside the physical body? Maybe I have been conditioned to feel and visualize it coming from outside, but what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'll take a plunge.
Please.
I always, when I first was instructed by my master, Hawayo Takata, in the initiation process, for instance, I always thought that I was giving the person something that they didn't already have. And she would describe it as sort of a connection. But what I realized after years of initiating people is that I felt like what was happening is that I allowed people to remember something that they already had. Some people think that Reiki practice is an ancient, is very ancient. And in the sense of putting hands on and promoting healing, I think this is a very ancient practice. Comes from parental instinct where a child falls down and you have nothing else around but a hug, a kiss on the hurt spot, and a saying, may your pain go away. I mean, this for me is really the beginning of hands-on healing. But in the sense of this practice, where we acknowledge, started with Mikao Usui Sensei, I believe that we are all filled with Reiki. I mean, we have to, it's like we're fish. We swim in water, we swim in Reiki, we walk in Reiki, we are surrounded with Reiki, we are Reiki. Otherwise we wouldn't be alive. So what is it that happens in the initiation process and in the conscious choice of practice? And I believe that we are remembering with a big R who we are in Reiki, and that we as we cultivate this part of who we are, that we are more able to make use of the water or the Reiki in which we live. And also we are more able to connect in with the Reiki that we have that's naturally a part of who we are cellularly and as a body. But you also have to remember that we are more than our physical body, that we have other bodies, energetic bodies, that are the bridge. So it's not just like two things, like Reiki out here and Reiki in here. There are also these energetic bodies that I feel like bridge and filter this Reiki so that it's like this, a little bit, Rachel, what you were describing at the beginning of the show, this cycle, you know, that we're all very familiar with, and it's very difficult to describe. So I have this thing for myself about dualism, like trying to decide which it is, one or the other. And in Reiki, I always come to the conclusion that it's both. So I've kind of given up a dualistic approach to the universe. I feel like it's all one. Like people want to say, oh, this is good energy or it's bad energy, but it's just energy. And sometimes I like the energy and sometimes I don't. Like sometimes, you know, I'm just tired of having choices. Like Reiki just gives me so many choices. I just like to have one choice. So I don't have to think. I don't have to be conscious. I don't have to, you know, be aware. But, you know, once you open your eyes to all the choices that you have in the universe, then, you know, it's hard to put the blinders on again. Impossible. Yeah? So this is me. What do you think?
Well, I do agree. My understanding is Reiki, around us and within us. We are not aware of this energy within us. So again, you know, outside, inside, you know, yes. In a way, it's not dualistic. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like you mentioned, you know, it's a one.
It's one.
So to me, Reiki energy, you know, belong to the world of oneness, no separation, not, you know, beyond duality. Yeah.
Right.
So,
beyond duality.
Yeah. So we think, oh, from outside, from within, but it's actually, you know, yeah, there is no such things. You know, no outside, no inside. It's beyond duality. That's my understanding of, Reiki energy.
Yeah. Well, that's a really important point, the beyond part. Yeah.
Then also, personally, as a human, you know, we live in the world of duality, you know?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So that's why sometimes we try to understand Reiki, which is beyond duality, you know, from the viewpoint of the world of duality. Then we are very much mistaken, you know? It's, you know, Reiki is beyond duality, but our reality is the world of duality.
Yeah.
So that's a kind of a difficult part, you know. We have to, to understand Reiki truly, we have to rise above the world of duality, you know, which is our reality.
Right.
Yeah. That's my understanding. Yeah? So there is no, I mean, outside or inside. You know?
Yeah, great. Thanks.
So this is really fascinating to me. I'm going to make myself big again to talk. So the word duality, when I read this question, and I'm grinning from ear to ear with such excitement and interest in everything that both you, Phyllis, and you, Yakuten, are saying. To me, I understand, I'm most familiar with the word duality in the context of theology, where what most monotheistic religions have subscribed to until very recently is a dualistic theology where there's this God character who like points from the heavens and commands all of the things that we experience here on earth. And there's a separation between the heavens and the earth. And around the same time that I was initiated to Reiki, I found a book called Non-Dual, it's called God is Everything, Non-Dual Judaism. And it's about just non-dualism, that both and, that this there's not this separate character called God, but God is this essential force that I personally understand as Reiki, this universal life force that actually connects us all. And in practicing Reiki, there's an experience of non-dualism, that there actually is no separation, and it's an ongoing practice of being in the world and being in relationship and holding the truth that there actually is no separation, that there's a cause and effect, and I inhale because the rest of life exhales, and that plays out in all of the other storylines that we're here doing in this point in the universe called Earth. And it's very exciting. And it's exciting to me to be talking about it because I also understand dualism as like this astrological age that we're coming out of, the age of Pisces, which was two fish swimming in different directions. And we've recently shifted into, we're now very, very recently in the age of Aquarius, which is the water bearer. So bringing that energy, that water is a substance that actually connects all life physically on the earth and in the heavens. And I just find it very interesting that there's this consciousness shift, that I find these conversations happening here and in established religious communities, and it's very exciting to be alive right now. And I don't know if you'd like to say anything before moving on to the next question. And I think, did you mute yourself? The next question came from Nick, and Nick wrote, what is the unique flavor of Reiki energy compared to other transmissions?
Well, following on from our dualistic question, it seems that this is also another question that sort of calls on us to make a differentiation of different energies. And again, I would like to just put forth that for me, Reiki energy is everything. And there isn't a way to compare it to other transmissions. I don't really understand the word transmission, Nick. And if you're actually online, Nick, it would be great if you could answer this question. When you say transmission, does this mean the transmission of Reiki practice? Or does this mean transmission in the sense of another kind of energy? Because for me, Reiki energy is, it's like it's not one color of the rainbow of energies. It's the whole rainbow. It's everything. So it would be difficult to take it apart and compare it. And if you're speaking about a transmission as in practice, then I definitely can't answer the question because I don't do other practices. So I have no way of comparing one transmission to another. So I'm not very helpful about this. And I don't see anything happening on the chat. So that's my response.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have something you'd like to add?
Well, like you mentioned, I only practice Reiki, so I don't know about other healing modality, and also again, there is no comparison or something like that, because to me, again, like you mentioned, Reiki, the absolute, beyond duality.
Yeah.
That means no comparison.
Right.
That's my understanding.
Yeah. Thanks.
Hmm.
I think we're ready for our next question.
Okay. The next question came from Karen, who said, please explain the difference between Reiki and Reiki Ryoho. Is Reiki an ancient practice, or did it originate in 1922 with Usui Mikao Sensei?
I'm going to hand this one over to you first.
Okay, thank you.
We've sort of touched on it before in our talking.
Yeah.
So.
Again, Reiki, again, simply put, it's the energy of the universe.
Yes,
and
I agree.
Reiki Ryoho. Ryoho means, Ryo means healing or therapeutic in Japanese. Ho is a method or the art, like a martial art.
Right.
Yeah. So, Reiki Ryoho is Reiki healing art.
Mm-hmm.
That's the meaning of Reiki Ryoho. Or we can say Reiki therapy in English,
Right.
Ryoho can be therapy. So, So Reiki, again, the energy of the universe, and Reiki Ryoho is Reiki therapy or Reiki healing art. So it's a different thing,
Right.
Yeah.
And as Yakuten said before, that of course there were always healers that used Reiki in Japan before Mikao Usui Sensei, but our practice started with him.
Yes.
So
Yes. When it's come to Reiki Ryoho,
Usui Reiki Ryoho.
Yes. Usui Reiki Ryoho, it's from Usui Sensei, and of course, like you mentioned somewhere, healing ability. It's a the inborn gift. Yeah. We are born with a healing ability.
Right.
As one of the natural healing ability we have.
Right.
Then, from ancient time, people use their hand
right.
to heal themselves. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's come to Reiki Ryoho or Usui Reiki Ryoho, it started with Usui Sensei. That was 1922. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Great. All right. Next question.
The next question is from Suzanne, and Suzanne asked, how is it that we practitioners are channels? If that's what we are, of Reiki energy, that's even harder to explain than the nature of Reiki energy. Thank you.
Well, Suzanne, I understand that from your viewpoint, maybe that's true, that it's harder to talk about being a channel. I grew up in the 1960s, and then in the 1970s, where from California in the United States, there were all these people who started to channel. And they were channeling other entities from space, right? And there were jokes in some magazines, New Age magazines, about having a special radio where you could dial in a channel, so you could dial in somebody from Mars, or you could dial in somebody from someplace else. It was really fun. And one of the things that was said during that time by Ram Dass, who I went to see once, he said, well, just because somebody doesn't have a body doesn't mean they're wise. And I thought, oh, I guess I always imagined that if we channeled something that didn't have a body, it was like channeling God. So they would be wise, right? And so it set me off on a whole discourse in my head. And then I got into Reiki, and my grandmother would say, and we channeled the energy of Reiki. And for me, it was just so practical. It was like the rain falls on the roof, and in many countries there are these channels that are put underneath the edge of the roof called gutters in English. And then there is a channel that brings it to the earth so that the water doesn't just fall on the roof and flow off it in a natural way. It is channeled through conduit. And here in Japan, the really neat thing is that they don't always have these enclosed cylinders to guide the water. Sometimes they use these beautiful metal sculptures like a chain, and the water follows the chain that doesn't need to be contained, which I find totally fascinating. So it's a little bit like channeling Reiki. It's like there's not this conduit inside of us. It's a natural function, I believe, of our cellular structure that we're processing constantly oxygen and carbon dioxide. We're processing other things, and energy is just another part of what we do as human beings. So many times I have gone to massage therapists who haven't been initiated into the practice of Reiki, but their hands are very hot and they feel like they have been. And it's because they have been consciously practicing this channeling of energy. So energy is all around us. We are Reiki energy. And so to pass it on to somebody else is a matter of natural ability for me. What do you think?
Well, personally, I understand, channeling Reiki energy means I become a channel or conduit.
Yeah.
In other words, I don't channel anything, I just become a channel or conduit or the instruments. That's all. That's my understanding. Yeah.
So
to channel Reiki energy means that we do something. I mean, people might be mistaken, oh, I channel Reiki energy.
Right.
That means I do something, yeah. But become or be a channel or conduit, we do nothing. We just be there. Like you said, Yeah.
So it's a state of being.
Yes,
rather than a thing.
Yeah. That's my understanding.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. We just become a kind of an instrument.
Great. Thank you. Good differentiation. Thank you, Suzanne.
And we have some engagement on the chat that I'd like to share.
Okay.
Nicole and Yaron wrote, though the question is from Nicole, I feel the conversation answers about oneness in duality, which is Reiki. For me, the main question that keeps arising is about, again, the duality is of natural versus unnatural. if oneness is in duality, does that mean that natural is like unnatural and there is the absolute is no difference? And in that sense, in line with what you said, Phyllis, about our conscious choices, that natural would mean being true to yourself and in how Reiki or life is wanting to express itself through us, and that sometimes natural means destruction and sometimes it means creation. Would you comment on this?
Well, Nicole, because I know you, and I'd like to just leap into this, but I have to assume things. Number one is that the dualistic daily life that we lead as human beings, the relative universe, is just so. And that there's another part of us that is absolute, that is just so as well. So this is the nature of Reiki energy. And for me, to live as a human being is to be able to hold both of these ways of being, so that instead of being 90% in relative world and 10% in the absolute, I can actually choose where I want to be in any given moment. Excuse me. Because I take a shower, I turn the water on, and I say, oh, it's too cold, so I turn the water hotter. You know, that's my personal preference, and that will always be there, that kind of duality, too hot, too cold. But what's true is that it's just water. So some people in some countries just take showers or bathe in any kind of water. Like I think about the people in India who go to the Ganges and they wash themselves and they purify themselves in the water of the Ganges. And for me, I don't know if I would feel cleansed in the water of the Ganges. So, you know, the point is that there's this wonderful mechanism as being a human being that we have to function in this dualistic relative world. And this is my word, saves us from the torture of that, is that we know that there's this absolute world where everything is one, where I don't have to blame someone for my misfortune because, you know, it's just happening because this is something that I'm needing to experience in my life. And there's no bad or good to it. It's just so. So I feel that natural, everything is natural. You know, I don't like it, I have to say, but this is an extreme example. My sister is a chemist, and she believes that all of her chemical compounds that she adds to food, which is her major, they're natural because they're chemical. They appear in nature in a different way, but she makes them in a laboratory and then adds them to food. And for her, they're totally natural. But I just go crazy because unless they are naturally in a carrot, and I eat the carrot and get that natural compound through a carrot, that's me being natural. So a natural is another way of changing the world into this dualistic kind of approach. So I would say there's no easy solution. And that's the wonderful thing about our Reiki practice and our understanding that comes through Reiki energy is that, you know, we carry both. And I hope this helps. Any words of wisdom?
Wow, let's see. The world of duality. This is our objective reality. Objective reality means we cannot escape from this. That means we always have to realize that we live in the world of duality.
Yeah.
Good, bad, success, failure, rich, poor, young, old, bad and this. How can we escape from our deaths,
Right.
So we have to accept this. But there's another world, the world of oneness, beyond duality, no separation. So first we have to realize, okay, I do live in the world of duality, but, there's a world of oneness, non-separation, beyond duality. Yes. Through the practice of Reiki Ryoho, we can, reach the world of oneness.
Right.
In other words, in Japanese, we say satori, enlightenment. When we attain enlightenment, that means we can reach the world of oneness, beyond duality. Even though we do live in the world of duality, still we can rise above the world of duality. Yeah.
Wow.
Then, whatever we see, whatever we hear, the only word we can say, good indeed, good indeed. That's the word of the Buddha, historical Buddha. He always say, oh, good indeed, good indeed. No opposite, because he has reached the world of oneness. Yeah, no duality. So that's my understanding. Duality. It's our objective reality. We have no power, over this, reality. But we can transcend the world of duality, and we can reach the world of oneness, no separation.
Great. Thank you.
That's my understanding. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, Nicole, I hope this helps.
I hope so too.
There's so much good stuff coming in the chat. I'll return to the questions that were submitted in advance. The last one I read was from Suzanne. So the next one is from Anna, and Anna wrote, when I experience Reiki energy, it is a very visual experience. For instance, I see streams of light. Can it be experienced through many channels? Sound, movement, touch, temperature, language. How can we integrate Reiki energy with language in the context of counseling spaces or even lyrical song?
So, Anna, again, it's been very interesting to have this conversation about dualism and the absolute, because this is, again, working into the realm of the relative. Like my grandmother saying, or my master saying, yes, these sensations in your hand are Reiki saying, I am here. And the same can be said for people who see light, who see colors, who have a difference in temperature. I know a lot of people who, when they sit down to a Reiki table, they end up, their temperature changes instantly and quite extremely. And this, for me, is amazing, because I don't have this. I have other things. And we don't need to integrate the Reiki energy because it's already a part of us. So for me, these are sound, movement, touch, temperature, language, being together in a very intimate space like counseling spaces or in singing together. All of this for me is about experiencing the universality, the absoluteness of Reiki in another way other than this. So, sure, those experiences are very good and can really assist you and come to people who work in the universe in that way. Like, I just think that I'm not a very, even though I'm a visual person in some way, I'm not a visual person in the sense of color. I feel. I like to touch. So thank you for your question.
The next question came from Kim. And Kim wrote, I understand Reiki to be intelligent and always work for the higher good. Is it necessary to use other things like crystals and tuning forks when the Reiki energy knows where and what to do?
Again, I just would like to have one comment, and that is that I don't consider Reiki, the energy, to be intelligent, because intelligence is a human quality that is often used by human beings to say, it makes sense to me, like it's logically forthcoming. And the intelligence of the universe often is not logical. And the intelligence, and then when I say that, what I realize I'm doing is I'm putting a human characteristic onto something that is not human, that is, as my grandmother said, unfathomable, incomprehensible, not describable by man. So again, we're trying to make Reiki energy smaller, to say it's intelligent so that we can somehow identify with it. But the calling for me in Reiki practice is to connect with this depth and this absoluteness of the divine and work to understand that we are that kind of divine. And it draws out something in us rather than putting it together in a logical way. And that it's always assumed that it works for a higher good. I'm really sorry, but I don't believe in a higher good. I believe that the universe works how it does, and that the most painful, excruciatingly devastating thing that can happen is often a gift. And and some people would look at that and say that's not for the higher good, but I don't know. I can't judge that. I'm not able to see the whole picture. So I don't use this phrase, actually, and especially in the context of Reiki energy. What happens for me is that there is an authentic, like we get to Nicole's word, natural, way that we work. For instance, our human bodies work. And it can be reflected in tuning forks. Like some people use tuning forks to determine where to balance an energy line or something. That I've had that done on me. And it's not necessary, but sometimes they're really useful. So, but I feel that it's not about giving up Reiki for a tuning fork. It's sort of using the tuning fork to express Reiki, if that makes sense. So I have to get a glass of water. Yakuten?
Well, let's see. Okay. I always say Reiki is all you need. All you need is love. Okay. So I don't
All you
think
need is. All you need is.
Yeah. Reiki is all you need. Then I say all you need is love. Sounds familiar? All you need is love. That means we don't need anything else. All we need is Reiki. And to me, Reiki is all-knowing, all-powerful, okay? Everywhere. Like God in Christian sense. You know, the God my understanding, God is, you know, how do you say, omniscient means all-knowing.
Right.
And omnipotent means all-powerful, anything possible.
Right.
Then omnipresent, everywhere. To me, like a Reiki, a different name.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we can surrender to Reiki for the universe.
Right.
So that's my interpretation,
Thanks.
understanding.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Rachel.
The next question came from Roger, and Roger wrote, regarding intention, do you believe that holding a clear, strong intention amplifies or strengthens the essential energy? For instance, let this energy heal this person.
Intention.
There's 2 or 3 questions about intention now coming up. And I'm really have a big question mark about this too. So I'd be really interested to hear what you have to say.
Basically, we don't need any intention. That's my understanding. You know, I mean, you know, intention sometimes mislead us to think that I am doing this healing, Reiki healing, you know? Yeah. So again, you know, maybe, you know, I'm going to, you know, do Reiki healing and maybe, you know, few seconds, intention could be okay. But if we try to use our intention, you know, all the way, again, that might mislead us to think I am doing Reiki healing to heal my friends, you know, my family.
Yeah.
So, yeah. In other words, you know, when we do our Reiki healing, we have to put our ego aside. That means I, mine, something like that. So intention for short period of time, you know, few seconds could be okay. Yeah. But again, you know, our intention could be kind of, you know, misleading.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So in that sense, you know, basically I try to avoid, you know, my intention when I start giving Reiki healing. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's been much of my approach. And I like this word that you used, Yakuten, misleading, because we might have an idea of what healing looks like for that person, but it's not accurate. So I think this is the place where we look for something that won't happen, and then we say Reiki doesn't work. But in fact, Reiki is working somewhere else where we're not looking and we're not expecting it, where our intention is not going. And then we don't see that Reiki actually is working, but in another way.
So again, that's remind me, intention could be kind of a expectation.
Expectation,
yeah,
right.
We are not supposed to expect
right.
anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Good. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I noticed in the chat that there's some conversation about I'm going to summarize what I'm interpreting from something Donna is saying on the chat, and I don't recall if there was another comment earlier, but about Donna experiences a color, a visual experience while practicing Reiki, and what I'm hearing in her statement is that that's one of the ways that she experiences Reiki, and some of the other questions about what does it mean? Is it different if people feel heat, or if people are feeling physical sensation or experiencing audible sensation? I think that these are just different gifts that people have, different ways that they receive the energy. And I understand the practice of Reiki to really be a meditative practice where the points of concentration is Reiki energy as it moves through us. And different people have different ways of sensing that through the primary senses. Like if we were to watch a show, someone might notice how beautiful the colors on someone's costume is, while another person might mostly notice the tone and inflection in the speaker's voice. That these are just different ways of receiving an essence or an energy. And so I'm noticing on the chat, there are people, Daniel is asking Donna, like, what do you mean? And what I think is that Donna is describing a way that she experiences energy. And it doesn't mean that someone else experiences that same way. And it also doesn't mean that her way of experiencing it is not so. Do either of you have any thoughts or things to say to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm reading the chat and I don't have the same communication as what I'm hearing from you. So I just get that Donna just said, I haven't connected any significance to the colors. I just see that this is what's happening and I accept it. And that's, that's what I would do. So I'd really love to stay with the questions that were pre-asked, just because they feel like they carry us somewhere into a thought, and this other part of the chat, unless there's a really specific question, feels distracting for me.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And I have been pulling, for everyone who's submitted questions that I haven't spoken about, my intention is to acknowledge those of you who are with us in time as we're speaking this. And I have been pulling all of your questions to a document that I'll share with Phyllis and Yakuten after, for them to at least read and see and receive what you're submitting on that chat. The next question. The next question that came in advance was from Barbara, and Barbara wrote, should my consciousness be focused, intent, or open and clear while doing Reiki?
Well, my answer is yes, because it's not really a yes and no question. What I found in practicing Reiki is that I just have to let my mind, my consciousness, do what it wants to do. And sometimes I spend too much time and too much energy trying to control my mind. And, you know, I have come to the point where my mind, as it were, has a life of its own. And it allows me to actually notice different aspects of my being. So if I try to control it, it's like trying to control something outside of me, like a little dog or another being, human being or something, and I want it to be a part of me. So I allow my mind, my consciousness to just be and to notice what's happening within that consciousness. So that's why I would say yes and more as an answer to that question, because sometimes I'm really focused, sometimes I'm really open, sometimes I'm clear, and sometimes I'm not. And all of that is fine for me while I'm practicing Reiki. Because Reiki will bring me to a point that is important for me to understand and to know. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, personally, I try to be, you know, like she said, clear and open. Yeah.
She.
Yeah. She. Yeah. Yeah. Clear and open. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And are you always clear and open?
Well, I try.
You try.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Good. Thanks, Rachel.
The next question that was submitted in advance came from Dorothy. And Dorothy wrote, my understanding is that Reiki is intelligent, thus knowing the source of the client's issue even prior to disclosure during client-practitioner dialogue. Therefore, even if the client omits some information for whatever reason, as we set our intention for the client to receive Reiki for their highest good, then the Reiki goes to the source and the client as a whole. Is this the understanding others have on the essential nature of Reiki energy?
So I feel as though I've addressed some of these assumptions, like Reiki is intelligent and that the client receives Reiki for their highest good, whatever that might be. And then when, Dorothy, you say, then the Reiki goes to the source and the client as a whole, I would say that what happens is that the treatment, the Reiki treatment, allows the client to connect with their source. And because Reiki is, for me, source. So the essential nature of Reiki as an energy is that it brings us closer and closer to our authentic self, to our source, who we are as a human being. Yakutan, what do you think? Excuse me.
When I do Reiki healing, again, like I mentioned, I try to be clear, open, sometimes no, but, Then also, I, try to surrender Reiki.
Right.
And then sometimes I say to myself, as a Reiki practitioner, I do nothing in the way of healing.
Right.
Yeah. It is Reiki, the energy of the universe.
Right.
That's a fine job of healing. Yeah. Not me. So that I can, put my ego aside. Otherwise, I have a lot of ego,
Right.
Big one, yeah.
Yeah.
So, not only Reiki practice, but any spiritual practice.
Right. Exactly.
We don't need our ego. We have to put our ego aside.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
The next question came from Emma, and Emma asked, do you feel the power reduced if practitioners don't use symbols?
Well, the I don't know, Emma, where you come from, because for me, maybe this makes a difference. I don't know what you mean about the word power. The very basic treatment, hands-on treatment, without symbols is all, Hawayo Takata used to say this all the time, that's all you need. And, you're accessing, universal life energy. Like, there's no, like, dialing in a higher power, so to speak. I believe that this is my impression, that the symbols that I use from second degree allow me to access a certain quality of that energy. Maybe it's hard to put into words, but I don't believe that it's a reduction of power or an increase of power. It's more an expansion of the depth of the treatment. And I know maybe that sounds like the same thing, but it's not for me. So, no, I don't feel that the power is reduced if practitioners don't use symbols. So, I don't know. Yeah. I'm really curious about your answer.
No, to me, Reiki symbol, mantra, whatever, it's more like a useful, helpful tool for beginning students. That means we are not supposed to depend on them forever.
Right, right.
Yeah. Like a training wheel, or maybe, can opener, once we open the can, you don't need it. Yeah. So for the beginning students, they are very useful, helpful. Yeah. But again, without using symbol does not mean, our energy or power reduce. I don't believe this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they are only two, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. How can our tool affect our, you know, the energy?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Great.
Mhm.
Thanks.
The next question is from Daniela. And Daniela wrote, are all lineages able to heal in the same way? If the energy is the same, then what are the different lineages all about? It's a good question.
It's a great question, and and then there are a couple of more questions about lineage, which we are not going to get to, but it was a great way to segue into lineage because we had spoken about lineage in the last webinar, and I had talked to Yakuten a little bit about lineage and the energy, like Reiki energy flowing through lineage, and how you know what is that all about, and how does he see it? So all lineages able to heal in the same way? Well, if the lineage, let's see, let me just. I need to back up for the word lineage. So, for instance, in some of the Japanese association, I don't know if they actually have lineage. They have association, and they keep the practice as close to the same as possible. And so it doesn't develop in the same way as a lineage like from Usui, Hayashi, Takata, and myself. We can see the development of the practice, and for some people, this development is change, and sometimes it's, you know, not really necessary or a good thing. But it's just so. I mean, this is what happened. So I don't know how many lineages that there are in the Reiki world. So Yakuten comes from a lineage that's similar to mine until Hayashi, and then his lineage is one of Hayashi's students, and then he is the next person. So he has his own lineage, and I believe that between the two of us, because our lineages are quite close together, we practice the same. But healing happens within the person through the energy of Reiki. So if the practice, and I'd like to use the word practice instead of lineage, if the practice actually does allow the student, the practitioner, to connect with the energy of Reiki, then they are healing in the same way, because it's Reiki and the person who is healing, not the practitioner. Is that? So, and then if the energy is the same, then what is all this talk about different lineages? And part of it is that the practices are different. So, you know, one practice might appeal to one person, and another practice appeals to another person. And the really lucky thing is today that there's a practice for everyone, I would imagine, in Reiki. You know, I love being here in Japan because I'm learning about all the different Buddhist sects, like the different forms of practice of Buddhism. And, you know, we're familiar with Zen Buddhism, which is we usually think about Zen Buddhism as people sitting in silence for hours and hours and hours. And Then another kind of Buddhism is about education. So they believe that educating and studying and reading and talking is a way to enlightenment. And somebody else thinks that doing good deeds and doing the certain chant is a way to get to the same place. So there are all these different forms of Buddhism. They all live in harmony, relatively speaking, and they live together, literally, often in the same temple. And I just really love that. So I would love it if at some point in our development as a Reiki community that somehow we could be not just tolerant, but to see the advantage of having all these different forms of practice. So that's where I am. So
yes. Again,
my
my understanding of a lineage is, Reiki system.
Yeah. Reiki system.
Yeah, system. Yeah. We have so many Reiki system. We don't know how many we have. Maybe 50, 100, a lot. Huh? Yeah. Yes. Then I always think, why I need so many different Reiki system. Yeah. Of course, yeah, because of human, weakness.
Right.
But anyway, but again, Reiki, to me, one and the same.
Right.
I always think, like the first time I visit you here, it was a beautiful full moon night, in Kyoto.
Mm-hmm.
But in Chicago, Tucson, the people also say, tonight, beautiful full moon.
Right.
We share the, same moon, the sun, same, huh?
Yeah.
So to me, Reiki is what, the one and the same. Yeah. So whatever the name, the Reiki system, the name, we share the one and the same Reiki.
Right.
Yeah. So that's why really it's okay, for us to have many different Reiki, lineages or system. They all work. That's my understanding. And thanks to that, we are having more and more Reiki people in the world. Yeah.
Yes,
That's
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if we say only this system, for example, Usi Reiki Ryoho, Gakkai system work, then how many Reiki people we have in the world?
Right.
At this moment, 200 people. That's all. And if we say only this, system work,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Rachel.
The next question is from Margot.
I think we are running out of time for questions.
I just looked at the time, and that's a big one. Whew. Okay.
Bummer. There's a lot more wonderful questions.
So perhaps we can talk after if there's something to do, because there are a lot more questions and a lot more that came in today. And I want to just express my gratitude and appreciation and love for all of the people who are with us in this moment live, and also in this moment live in the future watching this replay. It's very thrilling to experience this sensation of community with us all around the globe. So we'll close with some Reiki. If it's in your practice to send distance Reiki, I invite you to send Reiki to our collective highest purpose, and we'll close at the end. If it's not in your practice to send distance Reiki, simply give Reiki to yourself and let that be. I love seeing both of you giving Reiki to yourselves. It's beautiful. And before we officially close, I remembered I also want to say thank you to all of the people who sent donations, monetary gifts to us, to the Global Reiki Webinar Project through PayPal. And I also noticed that a handful of people tonight or this morning for Yakuten and Phyllis, when setting up the donation, actually set up a monthly recurring gift. And I appreciate that very much, and didn't notice that that was an option before multiple people did that tonight. So thank you. And for those of you watching on YouTube, again, that's down below in the description. And until next time, peace, love, and Reiki.